Night of 9 January 1945, Hatten, Alsace. Elements of 21st Panzer Division and 25th Panzergrenadier Division advance under Operation Nordwind against 42nd Infantry Division. One Browning M1919 machine gun, capable of several hundred rounds per minute, fires, while the barrel heats under sustained fire. Snow falls across streets, already torn by shells when German tanks roll forward. 88mm rounds strike houses in rapid sequence. Inside the command post of 1st Battalion, 242nd Infantry Regiment windows explode inward and ceilings collapse in cascades of plaster. Lieutenant Colonel Edwin N. Rusterberg orders immediate withdrawal to an alternate building deeper in the village. Clerks, radio operators and officers gather maps under dim red light. Master Sergeant Vito Bertoldo steps to the doorway and asks to remain alone with the machine gun. Permission granted, he drags the M1919 onto its tripod, places ammunition boxes within reach, and loads the first belt of 30 caliber. German infantry follow their tanks at less than 100 yards. He waits in full view of the street finger on trigger. The first wave emerges through smoke. Bertoldo opens fire at 200 yards, traversing steadily. Tracers cut low, men fall, survivors dive for cover. Tanks answer with high explosive that tears the facade above his head. He fires until the belt runs empty, reloads without stepping back and resumes. For 12 unbroken hours he holds the entrance while the staff escape rearward. German commanders feed squad after squad into the same killing ground, believing one gunner cannot stop a battalion. Each rush ends in the same beaten zone. Snow turns red. By dawn of 10 January, the original command post still stands, because no enemy soldier crosses its threshold. Bertoldo shoulders the hot gun, lifts 4 boxes of ammunition, and walks openly through shell fire to the new position 200 yards away. Operation Nordwind opens 31 December 1944, when Army Group G under Generaloberst Johannes Blaskowitz attacks the long front of 7th Army and 1st French Army. One Browning M1919 machine gun, capable of several hundred rounds per minute, still holds its fire if the barrel receives cooling between belts. The primary blow aims south through the Low Vosges and Haguenau forest to reach Strasbourg and the Rhine bridges beyond. Hatten and Rittershoffen lie directly across that axis, 2 small stone villages on the forest edge. 42nd Infantry Division, newly blooded and short of winter experience, defends the sector with 242nd Infantry Regiment forward. Opposing them stand 21st Panzer Division, officially commanded by Generalleutnant Edgar Feuchtinger and led in this sector by Oberstleutnant Hans von Luck, and 25th Panzergrenadier Division under Generalleutnant Paul Schurmann. German infantry ride half-tracks straight into the villages, expecting momentum to overcome thinned companies. American artillery registered on every intersection answers within minutes. Command posts inside Hatten remain the critical nodes. From those buildings, Lieutenant Colonel Edwin N. Rusterberg directs fire support, calls ammunition forward, and shifts companies by fragments. Lose the posts, and observation dies, radios go silent. The defense splinters street by street. The villages become the plug. Whoever owns their lanes owns the road south. Snow muffles tank engines, but not the crash of walls falling inward. Civilians crouch in cellars while armies fight overhead. 42nd Division has no prepared second line. If Hatten falls, 20 miles of open plain lie bare to the Rhine. German schedules demand the villages cleared within 48 hours before 6th Army Group can shuttle armour northward. One variable stays missing from every enemy estimate: a lone machine gun that refuses to fall silent or yield ground. Vito Bertoldo enters the world 1 December 1916 in the railroad town of Decatur, Illinois. He grows tall and thin, eyes already weak behind thick lenses, and by age 16 descends into the coal seams south of the city. 12-hour shifts underground teach him to move heavy loads in darkness, to listen for the creak of timbers, to breathe dust that never quite leaves the lungs. When war comes, he tries to enlist at once. The recruiting sergeant looks at the glasses and stamps the papers, 4F. He drives trucks instead, hauling gravel and grain across central Illinois roads until 1942, when standards loosen, and the army finally takes him for limited service only. He trains as military policeman, First patrols posts in Louisiana and Texas, then volunteers again for infantry because limited duty feels like half a war. Reclassified, retrained, he ships overseas in the autumn of 1944 with the 42nd Infantry Division, the Rainbow Division reborn from National Guard regiments of New York, Ohio, and the Midwest. By winter, he carries 3 stripes up and 2 rockers below. Master Sergeant and the men in headquarters company know him as quiet, methodical, the one who never complains about guard roster or frozen feet. 1 man, 1 machine gun, 48 hours without sleep or relief. On 8 January 1945, the 1st Battalion 242nd Infantry Regiment digs into Hatten. The command post occupies a 2-story stone house built before Napoleon, thick walls, small windows, slate roof, already scarred by earlier fighting. Bertoldo draws guard mount at the building because his eyesight, though poor at distance, remains sharp enough inside 50 yards, and because he never argues assignments. The Browning M1919 assigned to headquarters defense sits in the upstairs map room, barrel jacket wrapped in burlap against the cold. Dusk brings the first ranging shells. 88mm air bursts rake the rooftops, high explosive punches, holes clean through walls. Inside, radios crackle with reports of tanks massing north of the village. Lieutenant Colonel Edwin N. Rusterberg studies the map one last time, then orders the post displaced 200 yards deeper into Hatten before full night falls. Clerks roll maps, radio operators, coil antennae runners, stuff message books into musette bags. Everyone assumes the headquarters guard leaves with them. Bertoldo does not assume. He lifts the M1919 from its upstairs mount, carries the tripod downstairs alone, and sets the gun squarely in the front doorway facing the single paved road German infantry must use. He drags ammunition boxes from the cellar, lines them along the wall, opens each lid for quick reach. Thousands of rounds lie ready in cloth belts. He fills every canteen in the building, soaks wool scarves, hangs them on the window frames. The last officer out asks if he is coming. Bertoldo shakes his head once and chambers the first round. The staff vanish through the back garden under the noise of his opening burst. German infantry riding the rear decks of Panther tanks see one steady flicker of tracers from the doorway and assume a company rearguard. They dismount 200 yards out and spread into assault lines. Bertoldo waits until the first rank reaches the frozen irrigation ditch, then walks the gun across them at waist height. Men drop as if a scythe passed. Survivors burrow into snow or retreat behind armor. Tanks answer with main guns and coaxial machine guns that chew stone dust from the walls around his head. He never leaves the threshold. When the barrel glows, he wraps another wet scarf, waits 10 seconds, resumes fire. Steam rises in pale clouds each time the bolt slams forward. By midnight, the snow in front of the house lies trampled and dark. By dawn, the same gun still speaks from the same doorway, and no German soldier has stepped across it alive. At first light, the alternate command post signals ready. German pressure redoubles instead of easing. Bertoldo lifts the red-hot M1919, slings 4 heavy boxes across his shoulders, and walks upright down the shell-torn street to the new building, while enemy observers watch in disbelief. Dawn on 10 January 1945 rises pale through drifting smoke. The new command post occupies another old stone house, walls 2 feet thick, its front door 50 yards back from the street Bertoldo just walked. He climbs the narrow staircase with the M1919 across his arms and 4 ammunition boxes clanking against his legs. On the second floor he finds a heavy oak table already pushed to the window by fleeing clerks. He lashes the tripod legs to the table with signal wire, shoves the muzzle through the broken pane, and opens more boxes. A large reserve of ammunition remains. The gun can fire at a high sustained rate only until the barrel begins to warp, and no spare barrel exists. German armour has learned the route. A Panther noses around the corner at 75 yards, turret already traversing. Bertoldo opens fire first. Tracers snap against the mantlet and ricochet upward. The tank halts, blinded by sparks. Behind it, a self-propelled 88mm gun on a Panzer IV chassis edges forward and fires point-blank into the upper room. The shell passes 6 inches above the gun and detonates against the rear wall. Overpressure slams Bertoldo sideways into shattered furniture. Plaster fills the air like white fog. Ears ringing, he crawls back through broken glass, rights the tripod, and resumes long bursts downward at the infantry, now leaping from half tracks. Minutes later, the same wall takes a direct hit from the Panther. The second blast lifts the entire table and hurls man and gun across the room. Floorboards buckle. Bertoldo lands hard on his back amid burning maps. Smoke pours from the fresh hole. He drags himself upright, coughs blood-flecked dust, and hauls the table back to the window. The M1919 still functions. He feeds another belt and leans out. German soldiers below curse the single gun that will not die. A second Panther and 2 half-tracks stop directly beneath the window. Ramps drop. 20 assault troops spill into the street, weapons raised toward the upper floor. Bertoldo waits until the last man clears the vehicles, then walks one full belt across the crowded roadway. Bodies fall in heaps. The survivors scramble back behind steel. White phosphorus grenades follow rolling off engine decks, and filling the street with burning smoke, ammunition dwindles to 3 belts. He switches to fragmentation grenades thrown downward into doorways, where infantry try to mass. When the last belt runs out, he lifts a fallen M1 rifle, works the bolt deliberately, and keeps firing from the smoke-filled window until the final radio operator slips down the rear stairs. The building burns from repeated direct hits. Flames lick the ceiling above his head, yet no German soldier climbs those stairs while Vito Bertoldo remains on his feet. Browning M1919 .430 caliber machine gun, with an air-cooled barrel, fragmentation grenades, white phosphorus grenades, finally one M1 Garand rifle, 8 rounds per clip. At least 40 enemy soldiers are killed by one gun across 48 hours. The stand occurs inside the larger Battle of Hatten, Rittershoffen, 9 to 20 January 1945, where 21st Panzer Division and 25th Panzergrenadier Division throw battalion after battalion into narrow streets against 42nd Infantry Division, reinforced after 10 January by elements of the 14th Armoured Division. Both villages become moonscapes of rubble. By 20th January, 85% of all buildings lie. Flattened tanks burn at every corner. Infantry fight from cellars and shell holes through snow turned black with oil and red with blood. American casualties run into several thousand men, and German losses are comparable, yet the German line never breaks outward into the open ground beyond the villages. Bertoldo's 2 command posts stand as fixed islands the Germans must reduce before armour can roll south. Each failed assault costs many irreplaceable infantrymen shot down in the same fire-swept zones, while American observers in the upper rooms continue to call accurate artillery on every movement. Delay, measured in hours, becomes delay measured in days. Those days buy time for armoured and infantry reinforcements from 14th Armoured Division and other units to reach the sector and seal the flanks. The cloth belt tabs from expended ammunition cover the second-floor planks. Deep brass cartridges roll underfoot like gravel. The barrel carried away later glows, cherry red and warped beyond salvage. Yet the position never falls while the gunner breathes. German planners at Army Group G headquarters expect the villages of Hatten and Rittershoffen to fall within the first 48 hours of 10 January. They allocate 2 Panzer divisions and supporting infantry for a rapid breach, then a 20-mile armoured dash south through the open plain of the Hagenau forest to the Rhine bridges before 6th Army Group can react. The timetable is precise. Clear the villages by nightfall, 10 January refuel under cover of darkness, resume the advance at dawn 11 January, while American reserves still march northward on icy roads. Large German infantry forces commit against one machine gun position across repeated assaults in those same 48 hours. The plan begins to fail the moment the first wave crosses the irrigation ditch in front of the original command post and meets sustained fire from a single doorway. Bodies pile so quickly that later waves must climb over their own dead to reach the same beaten zone. By midnight 9 January, the regimental commander of the Panzergrenadiers reports that infantry cannot accompany the tanks deeper into Hatten until the stone house at the northern edge is reduced. Tanks fire heavy volumes of 88mm and 75mm high explosive into the building. The doorway remains open, the gun still speaks. At dawn 10 January, the alternate command post, 200 yards deeper, takes over the same function. German assault teams now discover they must fight through the same gunner a second time. Each attempt to rush the new building costs another group of men shot down in the narrow street below the second-floor window. Tanks maneuver to within 50 yards and fire directly into the upper room. The gunner disappears in smoke and dust, then reappears minutes later and resumes fire. White phosphorus fills the air, burning on engine decks and driving crews from turrets. By noon, the battalion commander requests permission to bypass the village entirely and swing east through Rittershoffen instead. Permission is denied. The corridor is only 3 miles wide. There is no room to swing. Meanwhile, American radio traffic never ceases. Observers in the burning upper room continue to call coordinates for 105mm and 155mm artillery battalions, firing from positions to the south. Shells land with little delay after each request, tearing gaps in every fresh formation before it can deploy. German tanks run short of main gun ammunition after firing at stone walls that refuse to collapse while a single machine gun lives. Half-tracks withdraw to refuel the infantry they carried, no longer exist in coherent platoons. During the critical night of 10-11 January, elements of the 14th Armoured Division reach the sector after a forced march through snow from the south. Sherman tanks and tank destroyers move into hull-down positions along the southern edge of Hatten and open fire on German armour silhouetted against burning houses. Fresh American infantry companies filter forward house by house. The narrow salient, never wider than 3 miles, becomes saturated with defensive fire. By first light 11 January, German regimental commanders report they cannot advance beyond the village centres, while American artillery remains directed from intact observation posts. The 2 command posts, defended by 1 man and 1 machine gun for 48 continuous hours, have purchased the exact delay 7th Army needs. Tanks begin to reverse out of the rubble-choked streets for lack of accompanying infantry. The corridor narrows, then closes. Operation Nordwind reaches its high water mark among the ruins of Hatten and can push no farther south in this sector. 11 January 1945 dawns on Hatten as a city of the dead. 90% of all roofs have collapsed, walls stand open to the sky, snow drifts through rooms where families once ate supper. 42nd Infantry Division still holds a battered defensive line anchored on Hatten after 48 hours of fighting because 1 machine gun never left its firing positions. 21st Panzer Division and 25th Panzergrenadier Division count their dead in hundreds, and their remaining operational tanks in much smaller numbers. Operation Nordwind, Germany's last strategic offensive in the West, expends major strength in and around 2 small villages without achieving its objectives along this axis. The German thrust in this corridor stops short of the Haguenau forest edge. Strasbourg remains 25 miles away, safe behind the Rhine. Army Group G orders a pause to refit. The pause becomes permanent. The Western Front will not see another German offensive of comparable scale and ambition. Master Sergeant Vito Bertoldo stays with the battalion through the rest of the bitter winter across the Siegfried Line into Germany itself until occupation duty ends in 1946. He returns to California, works first for the Veterans Administration in San Francisco, later starts a small landscaping business in Concord, marries, raises children, speaks little about the 2 days in Hatten. On quiet evenings, he sometimes sits on the porch and cleans a .30 caliber barrel that no longer exists, muscle memory moving through the motions. General Order No. 5, Headquarters, 3rd United States Army, 10 January 1946, awards him the Medal of Honor. The citation reads in part for conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity, at the risk of life above and beyond the call of duty in action, at Hatten, France, 9 and 10 January 1945. It credits him with killing at least 40 enemy soldiers and preventing capture of vital command posts that controlled the entire regimental sector. He receives the medal in a simple ceremony at the Presidio, shakes hands with Major General Harry Collins, returns to work Monday morning. He dies in 1966 at age 49, buried with full honours at Golden Gate National Cemetery. The 2 stone houses are gone, pounded to gravel and carted away for road fill. Children born after the war play football in the fields that cover the command posts. Only a small plaque near the church records that here for 48 hours, 1 man and 1 Browning M1919 helped stop repeated German attacks that never broke through while he held his ground.